Okay, now let's move to the topic LU decomposition. So what does it means is that if you have any matrix A, you can always decompose this matrix A into the product of two matrices which are L and U. Can you guess what is L and U? So L is nothing but your lower triangular matrix and U is nothing but your upper triangular matrix. So what is it? It is this process is basically of decomposing a particular matrix into the product of two triangular matrix, lower triangular matrix and upper triangular matrix. This is what we will be trying to do here. Okay, so now how to do this? For that I'll take an example directly, which was a GATE question. So it was asked in CS paper 2015. So first of all, you can write it down. So write down this. This was the question. Question was to break this matrix into one upper triangular and one lower triangular matrix. Okay. So what will I say? That let's say A is equal to L into U. Now to simplify your calculations, what we will do, we can assume this to be in two ways. Like first way is this one, that choose L11, lower triangular matrix it is. So L11, L21, this will be 0, and L22, and choose these elements as 1 for upper triangular matrix. Understood? One way is to choose the matrices such that upper triangular matrix have the diagonal element as 1, or the other way is that you can take these elements to be 1 and these to be some elements like this. So basically there will be two ways. Why we are doing so? Why we are taking one of these as 1? Because this will simplify your calculation. That will simplify your calculations. That's why we are doing so. Okay. Depending upon your options, you can see that if the options is such that in your lower triangular matrix the diagonal elements are 1, then you will decompose using this. If in the option your upper triangular matrix is having the diagonal elements as 1, then you will use this decomposition. Okay, this is the thing. Now let's say that I'm using the first way to decompose. Then I will write this as first way, L11 0, L21 L22 multiplied with okay. Now it is very basic matrix algebra that you need to apply. First of all, just multiply these two matrices. What will you get? Multiply these two matrices. Tell me what will you get? First element of this multiplication matrix, that will be first row multiplied with first column, L11 into 1, L11, and then 0 into 0 will be 0 only. Understood? The first element of by multiplying these two elements will be L11. Understood or not? Yes. And second element will be by multiplying this row with the second column. What you should get? You should get L11 into U12. Similarly, for this element, multiply this row with the column. So you will get L21 and this as L21 U12 plus L22. Just basic matrix algebra. If you are not getting, please tell me. Now what will you do? The thing you will do here is that you know this is equal to this. So we will just compare these two matrices. We will just apply the equality operation and we will say that okay, L11 is the first element here, that is it is equal to 2. Then L11 into U12 is the second element here, that is equal to 2. We have already calculated this as 2. So 2 into U12 is 2, which implies U12 is 1. U12 is 1. Then we will say on comparing L21 is equal to 4, L21 is equal to 4, and similarly L21 U12 plus L22 is 9. So L21 substitute the values as 4 here, 1 here, and you will get L22. So 4 into 1 plus L22 is 9. Definitely your L22 is 5. So you have actually decomposed, you have got your result that this value L11 value I am writing down here, it will be 2. L21 value you are getting it as 4. L22 value you are getting it as 5, and U12 value you are getting as 1. So this is how the decomposition process is done. Any doubt in this? So absolutely correct. Elements of if the elements of a matrix consist of complex numbers, then that matrix is known as complex matrix. Okay, it is as easy as that. Complex numbers are if there are some complex number in the matrix, then the matrix is said to be complex matrix. Now in complex matrices, there are some special type of matrix. First is known as conjugate of a complex matrix. Conjugate of a complex matrix, and it is denoted by A bar. Okay, tell me, if this is your complex number, can you find out its conjugate? What is conjugate? If 2 plus 3 iota is your complex number, then what is its conjugate? Yes, 2 minus 3 iota. What do you do in taking the conjugate? You just change the sign of your imaginary part of your complex number. Flip the sign of imaginary part of the complex number and you will get its conjugate. Now what is conjugate matrix? You can copy the definition from the slide. It is obtained by replacing the elements of the matrix by the corresponding conjugate complex numbers. So what are we trying to do? That if this is a complex matrix, to find out its conjugate matrix, we will just take the conjugate of all the elements of the matrix. Okay? Yes? So if I ask you what is the conjugate of 2, so 2 is having no imaginary part, so it will remain the same. Its conjugate will be 2 only. If z is equal to 2, and if you take its conjugate, it will again come out to be 2 because no imaginary part, no flipping of the sign. So it will be 2, this will be 6, but here the sign will flip and here it will come out to be 4 minus 5 iota and 3 minus 4 iota. Very easy term, nothing much to explain. This is the conjugate matrix. Next is transposed conjugate of a matrix. Again, the name is itself suggesting you what you have to do to find the transposed conjugate. Transposed conjugate denoted by A theta. What you have to do? Transposed conjugate means conjugate and then transpose. So for this matrix again, if I ask you what is A theta, then you have already taken the conjugate. Now take its transpose. So basically A theta can be written as conjugate of transpose of the conjugate matrix. So it will be 2, 4 minus 5 iota, 3 minus 4 iota and 6. Okay. This is known as the transposed conjugate. Now we have Hermitian matrix, third type, third special matrix in terms of complex matrix, that is Hermitian matrix. So in the case of real matrices, we have a special type of matrix which is known as symmetric matrix. What is a symmetric matrix? We have discussed in the previous class. The matrix for which transpose is equal to the matrix itself is the symmetric matrix. Similarly, here for the case of complex matrices, we have Hermitian matrix, means A theta transposed conjugate is equal to the matrix itself. Understood or not? This is the Hermitian matrix. So if you find out its transposed conjugate, so first of all find out the conjugate. It will be 2, 3 plus 4 iota, 3 minus 4 iota and minus 5. And again if you find out A theta means transpose of this matrix means 2, 3 minus 4 iota, 3 plus 4 iota, minus 5. You can see both of these are equal. That means A is Hermitian matrix. A is Hermitian matrix. So simply remember like this. It is the counterpart of symmetric matrix in the case of complex matrices. Nothing new, just counterpart of symmetric matrix. So if there is a counterpart of symmetric matrix, then there must be a counterpart of skew symmetric also. So in this, for that case, we will have the term known as skew Hermitian matrix, counterpart of skew symmetric, skew Hermitian matrix. And again obviously you can directly guess what it will be. It will be equal to A theta equal to minus A. If in a matrix two conjugates are present, then it is a Hermitian. Two conjugates, but two conjugates such that like if there were conjugate here also, then it won't be a, like if in place of here, if these were here, then it won't be a conjugate matrix. Okay, the order also matters, that where those conjugates are present. I think you got my point. So skew Hermitian matrix, for example, so we have already seen that the elements, diagonal elements of a skew symmetric matrix. What are the diagonal elements of a skew symmetric matrix? They are always 0. We have seen in the previous class that the diagonal elements of a skew symmetric matrix are always 0. Now will this be true for a skew Hermitian matrix? Will this be true that if the diagonal elements should be 0 or not for a skew Hermitian matrix? No, it is not the necessary condition that the diagonal element is 0. What the necessary condition is that the diagonal elements should be either 0 or purely imaginary. Either 0 or purely imaginary. How did we arrive at that? So that for that, I'll do the same analogy as in the previous class. So following the same analogy as in the previous class, I had written that A theta is equal to minus A. So if the elements of minus A are minus Aij, then the element of A theta is was transposed conjugate. So first of all there should be conjugate and then it should be transposed. So can I write like this? The elements of A theta will be Aj conjugate. Can I write like this? Are you able to follow? Are you able to follow? Yes or no? if this element, for the elements of A, if this the element is Aij, then the A theta will have the corresponding element as Aji conjugate. Yes, very good. So now when I becomes equal to J, that means the diagonal elements that for which I am talking about, what will happen? This will tell you that A11, let's say both are 1, so A11 conjugate is equal to minus A11. A11 conjugate is equal to minus A11. Now, obviously this will be satisfied by the number 0, but it is also satisfied by any complex, purely complex number. Let's say if you take A11 to be minus I or plus I, let's say, then what will be its conjugate? It will be minus I. Just flip the sign of the imaginary part and you can see that this identity is following. This suggests what? That the diagonal elements for a skew Hermitian matrix need not be always as 0. They can be 0 also, or they can be purely imaginary also. But as soon as there is a real part associated with this, then this will not be followed. Okay, so what we can say, that you can write it down as a note. The principal diagonal elements of a skew Hermitian matrix Yes, only complex suggests, Piyush, only complex means purely imaginary. There are two terms, imaginary number and purely imaginary number. Imaginary number is having a real part, but purely imaginary number is such a number which is not having real part. Its real part is 0. So that's what I was trying to convey to you. Okay, so I think you are all clear with the complex matrices. So we have seen some four type of complex matrices. First one was conjugate of matrix, in which you just take the conjugate of each and every element of your complex matrix. Second one was transposed conjugate. Name itself suggests take the conjugate of the matrix and then its transpose. Third one was the counterpart of your symmetric matrix, which is known as Hermitian matrix in this case, for which A theta is equal to A, means transposed conjugate is equal to the matrix A. And lastly, we have seen the skew Hermitian matrix, the counterpart of skew symmetric matrix, for which the transposed conjugate is equal to the negative of the matrix itself. And we have seen that its diagonal element will be either 0 or purely imaginary. Okay, so this completes your first part of the chapter, which was the basic matrix algebra, in which we have seen how to find the inverse, how to find determinant, how to add, how to multiply, and how to find adjoint and all those operations on your matrices. Okay, y iota equal to minus iota. Not minus iota, I have seen. According to this relation, we need this to be equal to negative of this, which are equal, na? Follow this relationship. If A11 is iota, A11 bar is minus iota, so it is falling in this relationship. That's why I have said complex, purely imaginary numbers. So as you can see the definition, please see the definition from the slide. What is vector space? Like in case of skew symmetric matrix, we have seen that the sum will be what? Sum will be always 0. For this skew Hermitian matrix, the sum will be either 0 or purely imaginary. Then answer will be, it can be both, 0 also, purely imaginary also. 0 will be when the diagonal elements all are 0, and purely imaginary when the diagonal elements are not all 0. So vector space, you can see the definition, a space consisting of group of vectors. So there is a space in which there are a lot of vectors. That combination of all those vectors in a particular region or volume or area is nothing but a vector space. So if I draw a random space like this, let's say this is a 2D space, and there are some vectors like this, any random vectors if I draw, Okay, so this will be known as your vector space in which there are some random vectors present. Okay, so this is vector space. Now before dealing with some terms associated with vector space, let's discuss what are known as linearly dependent vectors. So write down the heading now, linearly dependent and independent vectors. So first of all understand and then you will write it. Okay, so I'm giving you one example. Let's say you have two vectors. X1 vector is 1, 2 and 3, and there is another vector which is 2, 4 and 6. Okay, these are the two vectors which have been given to you. Now if I ask you that is there any relationship between these two vectors? Is there any relationship, and if it is there, then what is the relationship exactly? Can you tell me? Okay, so you have answered proportional, parallel, linearly dependent, unidirectional. Okay, lot of terms, lot of different varied answers. Almost all of them are absolutely correct. All of these answers are correct. What I'm asking is relationship among two quantities. If I say that there is a function y equal to fx, then that means that this is the relationship. Similarly, you can say that here x2 is nothing but 2x1. This is a relationship among these two vectors. Yes or no? All of you are not wrong, but what I tried to ask you what is the relationship between these two. So relationship is like this. Now coming to this one where I have written y is equal to fx, then you must be familiar with the two terms which are known as independent variable and dependent variable. Do you know that? In this equation, can you tell me which one is the independent variable here? Which one is the independent variable? So yes, here this variable is known as independent variable, and you can say that y is equal to function of x. That means you can say as y is depending on x. That's why this is known as dependent variable. This is about the calculus that we will see sometime later, but from this point of view, again you have a relationship here also. So from following the similar analogy, can I say that this vector is what? Independent? Can we say that it or not? According to the same analogy, we can say that this one is independent and this one is dependent. So what we have done, we were studying the topic of linearly dependent and independent vectors. I have given you two vectors. You found a relationship between the two vectors, and then using that two relationships, you are able to say that which one is dependent and which one is independent. So can I say that if two vectors can be written in a relationship like this, means if one of the vector can be expressed as the multiple of the other, then the two vectors are said to be a set of linearly dependent vectors. I have told you one is dependent, one is independent, but as a whole, if I talk about this set, then what will you say? That this set is a set of linearly dependent vectors, as there is a relationship among these two. If there was no relationship among these two, obviously they will be existing independently. But because you could find a mathematical relationship like this, that's why these will become linearly dependent vectors. Understood? So, for two vectors, if you want to define the linear dependency, then you can see the slide. If one vector can be written as the multiple of the other, then they are said to be linearly dependent vector. So write this down from the slide, and then this example, and then write it down that write it down from the board. Existence of mathematical relationship implies that it is a set of linearly dependent vectors. Question that if I interchange the relationship, like if I write the same relationship as x1 equal to x2 by 2, then will it change that which one will be the independent, which will be dependent? So first of all, I have not said anything about which one is independent and which one is dependent. I have just said that existence of relationship implies that that will be the set of linearly dependent vectors. And why so? Because we are not considered which one is, like which one among these two, which one is independent. Like taking the real life example that now I guess that all of you are not working. Let us assume that all of you are not working. Okay, all of you are just students and you are studying. So what will you say to other people that for any financial requirement I am dependent on my parents? Will you say like this or not? Okay, what will you say about your situation that I am financially dependent on my parents? But you know that when you will score very good marks in GATE, if you after that you will get some admission into MTech or so or PSU, something like that, then you will be able to earn a lot of amount of money, and at that point your parents then will become dependent on you. So this is the real life only, that sometimes you are dependent on your parents and after some time your parent will be dependent upon you. So accordingly, as soon as you interchange the relationship, the person which is dependent on the other will change. But we are not focused on that which one is independent and which one is dependent. We are just focused on this thing that if the relationship exists, then as a set these two are linearly dependent. And similarly, there is a dependency among you and your parents because you are in relationship, you are related to each other. That's why you are having some dependency. If they were unknown or strangers to you, then you won't have any dependency. So that is the real life example of this thing, that existence of relationship directly implies there is a dependency. I am saying one can be written as the multiple of the other, and here I have said mathematical relationship. This is the relationship. So both are the same thing only. Why are you getting confused? Any mathematical relationship, if there are only two vectors, then the mathematical relationship that is possible for linearly dependent vectors is only this one. Okay? Is only this one. And I'll generalize this concept for n vectors also, so wait for some time. Okay, so I think you have understood the point. Either you write this or in this way, the number of independent vectors will be always 1 in this set. Okay, what I'm saying, either you write in this way or that way, the number of linearly independent vectors is always 1. Here it is x1, and in this way it is x2. Okay, and as a whole, because there is a relationship, you will say this set is a linearly dependent vector set. Now I have taken this example. Let's take some other example in which there are 3 vectors. Okay, before that, tell me, if I draw the x1 vector on the graph, let's say this is a 2D plane, and let's say your x1 vector is somewhat here, then where will be your x2, or where according to the position of x1, where will be your x2? So you can see that x2 is nothing but twice x1. So obviously it will be parallel to your x1 vector wherever it may be in this vector space. It will be always parallel to your x1. So I can draw it anywhere, but the only condition is that it should be parallel to x1. So now can I say that if the two vectors are linearly dependent, that means you can write one as a multiple of the other. That means those vectors will be always parallel to each other. Can I say that or not? Are you getting my point? If they are linearly independent, you can write this relationship that directly implies that they will be always parallel. Okay, so write one point after this, draw this graph and write one point that physically Okay, so now let's take another example. But now this time I'm not taking just two vectors, I'm taking three vectors. Okay, I'm taking three vectors now, and look at these vectors carefully. So write it as example 2, and the three vectors that I'm going to take is okay, these are the three vectors. Now, by the universal analogy of you and your parents, I proved that if there is a relationship, then there is a dependency. We have seen that for the existence of for the vectors to be linearly dependent, there should be some relationship. Now, I have not told you anything about the set of three vectors. I've just told you about the two vectors. But now if I ask you, are they linearly dependent, then your first thing that should come in your mind is that, is there any mathematical relationship among these three vectors? If there is a relationship, then they will become dependent. Yes or no? Are you getting the point? If you are able to find out the relationship, you will be able to say that they will be dependent. So if I am telling you about 3 vectors, 4 vectors, n vectors, then what you will say, just let's see what is the relationship among these 3, and then you will be able to prove the dependency. So now give me whether they are linearly independent or dependent. Tell me. Okay, so everybody is saying dependent. Yes, very good. And some of you have given me the relationship also. So if I write down, then you can say that z vector is equal to x minus y vector. You have found out the relationship, and as soon as you see the relationship, that means relationship implies dependency. So relationship you got, that means these are a set of linearly dependent vectors. Again, same conclusion here. Same thing. Existence of mathematical relationship implies that it is a set of linearly dependent vectors. So no doubt in that, now you can easily compare any set of vectors to find out the relationship. Okay. Now the thing is, again the same thing. How many of these 3 vectors are actually dependent vectors? Like in this case, we have seen that x2 was dependent. Okay. Now in this case, can you tell me how many vectors are dependent vectors among these 3? That if you write this kind of a relationship, still one is said to be dependent only. One will be independent only. This set as a whole is said to be dependent, but among those 2 vectors, one will be independent. Okay, it is one should be independent, other should be dependent. Similarly, all can't be independent. All can't be independent. According to this relationship, you can directly see that this one is dependent because this is on the equal to side. This is on the RHS of the equal to side. So it is directly saying that as soon as x changes, as soon as y changes, z will change. That means that z is dependent. Yes. So z, only one vector is dependent and these 2 are independent. So if I ask you, in this set of linearly dependent vectors, how many are linearly independent, then you will say either of any these 2 are independent. Yes, any of these 2 are independent. If you change the relationship like this, then your x and z will become independent. If you write like in the second way, then your x and y are independent. Understood this point or not? One will be always dependent and the rest of the 2 will be independent. Okay. So now if I generalize this thing to n number of vectors, then you can find that the condition of dependency will be, if you find any relationship and if I generalize that relationship among the vectors, then this will come out to be k1 x1 plus k2 x2 plus k3 x3, all summation can be equal to 0. Similarly, in this case also you can write this one, that x minus y minus z equal to 0. So k1 here is 1, k2 here is minus 1 and k3 here is again minus 1. So whenever this linear combination is satisfied for a set of n vectors, then that set of n vectors is known as linearly dependent vectors. So this is what we have discussed about linearly dependent vectors. One more thing to focus. I have written in the last example that physically what are linearly dependent vectors? Parallel vectors. Now will that statement be true for 3 vectors also? So yes, it is true for 3 statement also, but the thing is that here the vectors which are parallel have changed. If you look at this relationship z equal to x minus y, then if x is this vector, okay, and if I take minus y as this vector, x is this vector, y is this vector, then you know that by using the vector sum, this z will be a vector like this, vector sum. You must remember in your 11th class we have done vector sum. So if you don't remember also, then it's okay. So the parallel vectors in this case have changed a little bit. What are the parallel vectors? The z vector and the x minus y vector. There is a condition of parallelism, but the vectors which are parallel are z vector and x minus y vector. Not all the vectors are parallel among themselves, just the subtraction of these two vectors is parallel to z vector. Okay? So in this relationship, if you have written it down from the slide, you can see that I have mentioned that all scalars k1, k2, k3 are all scalars and they are not all 0 simultaneously. That means that you can't have all these as 0 at once. All cannot be 0 simultaneously. The situation can't be like this, that k1 is also 0, k2 is also 0, k3 is also 0. This cannot occur, because when that occurs, that means what? 0 equal to 0, and that means what? There is no relationship. No relationship means linearly independent vectors. Are you getting it? So the condition of linearly independent vectors, now you can see, is that if you can't follow this relationship, basically not following the relationship means all these constants will be 0. No relationship means all the constants are 0, and that will come into the condition of linearly independent vectors. Okay, so note it down from the slide. Note it down from the slide. That example of more than one possible. Okay, if I tell you that there are 4 vectors and the 4 vectors are related like this. 2 vectors are related like this, and the other vectors are related like this. Okay, what I'm saying, that there is a vector space again the same thing, that there are some n vectors in a particular space. So those n vectors are, let's say, 4 vectors here. Okay, now for this case, if the relationship that you found among those 4 vectors is these two, that x1 is 2 times x2 and x3 is x4 plus x2, now can you tell me how many are dependent here? If the relationship is such between the 4 vectors, how many are dependent? According to this relationship, you can see that x1 is twice x2, okay? So that means that x1 is dependent here. And according to this relationship, you can see that x3 is x4 plus x2, so it is also dependent here. So how many vectors are dependent? 2 vectors are dependent. How about a case like Sayan is saying this one? So x1 plus x2, I can write this as minus x3 plus x4. Again, you will say 1 is dependent, because 1 can be written as the addition or summation of the rest 3. Okay, let's discuss this concept again tomorrow.